Hello and welcome to I'm gonna call this episode 1.5 of Yacht Rock. I'm your host, Bex Pennell, and today we are going to be reading over the thesis that started this whole project and kind of ended this whole project. I've been quite MIA. I am afraid I rocked on my yacht too hard and just kind of been in my own little world. I have been going to the beach, witnessing yachts from the shore, and wondering what type of music they've been listening to. And in that, I've kind of forgotten about this channel, but I really wanted to revisit this project because Yacht Rock means a lot to me, and we'll get more into that. Um, this is designed to kind of be a soft-spoken ASMR rambly piece of work for you to fall asleep to, put in the background while you do some other boring, monotonous task. Um, just really whatever you'd like to partake with it. So around the 10-minute mark, I'm gonna put a black screen. So if you are using it for sleep, you can fall asleep ever so peacefully. But I have done a couple of things with this project over the summer. I will link in the description my guest appearance on the Death of Cinema podcast. It's a great podcast where my two good friends, Nick and Ethan, review and compare, contrast lots of films. I suggested that we do Gentle and Soft, which is a mockumentary that centers around Blue Jean Committee, which is a brainchild by Fred Armisen and Bill Hader. It's really funny, it's great, and we compared that with Spinal Tap, which is a classic music mockumentary that centers around I would guess you could say, prog metal band thing. Yeah. So, if you want, you can follow that in the description, as well as my published thesis, if you'd like to follow along, if you're a nerd like I am. So, we're gonna start with the introduction. Although Yacht Rock refers to songs predominantly recorded from 1976 to 1984, this quiet storm of a genre was not coined until 2005 with the creation of a web series by the same name. Almost 20 years after the genesis of Yacht Rock, its cultural currents, see what I did there, run through our music and minds in subtle yet profound ways. Through the creation of this paper and accompanying original audiovisual content, I aim to explore and illuminate accessibility, vulnerability, and nostalgia as the most prevalent themes of yacht rock. In conjunction with my research and creation of audiovisual content, including original musical compositions, video essays, and overlaid memes referencing other figures in popular culture, I intertwine my academic findings with personal discoveries that affected the state of my project. My objective is to engage, inform, and entertain both my friends and a broader potential audience by delving into the history, defining characteristics, and subtle nuances of yacht rock, a genre whose name may be relatively recent, but whose sound and cultural resonance have been evolving since the late 1970s. This project stems from a deep curiosity about the label yacht rock and what makes the genre both specific and elusive. I was particularly intrigued by how a collection of smooth, often sophisticated songs dismissed as yacht rock gained new life through rebranding and recontextualization in internet-era media, mockumentary formats, and curated playlists. In examining these shifts, I hope to contribute to the ongoing conversation about accessibility in performing and enjoying music, the vulnerability shown in yacht rock, and the nostalgia generated by the reinterpretation of musical eras. I would also like to note that you can find my curated yacht rock playlists on both Spotify and Apple Music. in the description down below. By combining research of academic literature, news publications, podcasts, oh, my computer, lyrical and theoretical analysis, and creative expression, I want to offer a comprehensive yet accessible look at why yacht rock continues to resonate today, both for those who lived through its first wave and for new listeners discovering it for the first time. Ultimately, this project is as much about musical scholarship as it is about personal discovery. I invite others to step aboard and join me on this journey. Take a shot every time I make a really bad boat pun or water pun. Key elements of yacht rock include a fusion of soft rock, jazz, R&B, and disco. And I would also like to add sometimes gospel and even country, lush instrumentation, harmonic, rhythmic, and textural complexity, and lyrical themes of unrequited love. Yacht Rock's geographic epicenter is Los Angeles, where many of the same musicians collaborated on the same records, creating an extensive social network of musicians. For my cumulative project at Florida State University, Go Noles, I decided to choose yacht rock as my research topic because of its diverse range of genres it draws from, paralleling my exposure to new types of music during my time in college. These themes present the themes present in both the creative processes and product continue to resonate with me throughout my late adolescence and early adulthood. Through the creation of a web series, I aim to convey the findings of my research via short-form content to a broader audience and develop my online content creation skill set. Working on it still, including, but not limited to, script writing, audio, video, recording and editing, and social media marketing. Through this multi-method creative research project, I seek to critically examine yacht rock's cultural significance by bridging scholarship and storytelling to reflect how this genre continues to shape both culture and my own evolving identity as a listener, creator, and researcher. Background. It was a cool February night in 2018, and I was out for a walk. I made a Spotify account, and after countless ads and acoustic guitar-based songs, a warm, lush sound enveloped me in the evening mist. It was Ambrosia's biggest part of me. I was hooked on the emotions the song stirred in me, so I created a playlist with this song. Over time, I built playlists with songs that evoked similar emotions in me. In 2019, I heard the iconic intro to What You Won't Do for Love by Bobby Caldwell on the infamous short-form app TikTok. In 2020, I was watching a TV show with my mother called Mom, funny enough, and the triumphant post-chorus of Ride Like the Wind by Christopher Cross captivated me. In 2021, I heard Steely Dan's album Asia and the Doobie Brothers' Minute by Minute. I noticed that the same soulful voice, reminiscent of Julia Child on 2 glasses of sherry, appeared throughout these beloved works like a soulful thread woven into an auditory quilt. It was the voice of Michael McDonald that cued me into a collaborative scene, connecting these songs. I cannot remember when the term yacht rock officially appeared in my consciousness, but I do know that in 2021 I was streaming the Yacht Rock Essentials playlist on Apple Music, foolishly believing that the New York-driven mellow storytelling tune Escape, the Pina Colada song by Rupert Holmes, belonged in the same playlist as masterpieces like the bouncy West Coast Peg from Steely Dan. I, like many people, assumed yacht rock was a term that included any soft rock artists that evoked nautical leisure and indulgence, such as Jimmy Buffett and Captain and Tennille. Upon further research, I found this was not the case. Throughout college, I continued to listen to the genre known as yacht rock. One day in April 2024, I wanted to dive deeper into a genre I knew little about, but loved dearly. I found the term yacht rock was coined by J.D. Risner, Steve Huey, Hunter D. Stair, and Lane Farnham in a web series uploaded to Channel 101 entitled Yacht Rock. The 12-episode series tells fictitious stories of how famous yacht rock songs like Rosanna by Toto and infamous non-yacht tunes like Margaritaville were conceived. The story features portrayals of real musicians like Michael McDonald, who serves as the main hero of the story, as well as fictitious characters like Coco, an eccentric producer constantly donning a captain's hat who, spoiler, dies ascending into heaven to Christopher Cross's sailing. Highly recommend. Most people don't know that, so also in the description. Okay. Antagonists throughout the series include, but are not limited to, Hall & Oates, Eddie Van Halen, and Jimmy Buffett. These artists' depictions serve as an antithesis to the smoothness of yacht rock in one way or another. Hall & Oates are aggressive homophobes with an East Coast sound. Van Halen is a hard rocker ruling over Michael Jackson with an iron fist. And Jimmy Buffett's portrayal as a mellow cult leader insinuates his music to be mind-numbing. The style of humor ranges from crude to absurd. Its low-resolution video, simple costumes, and zany edits made it a cult classic series. Subsequently, the term yacht rock went viral, generating music compilations on SiriusXM, Spotify, Apple Music, and now that's what I call music. Leading publications such as the Wall Street Journal have written about the genre. There are several modes of commentary praising and critiquing yacht rock, including but not limited to community chat-based platforms such as Reddit, blogs, YouTube videos, and podcasts. In November 2024, HBO Max released a documentary called Yacht Rock, a documentary, directed by Garrett Price. Also highly recommend. The documentary follows Yacht Rock's origins from Steely Dan and Michael McDonald's collaborations in 1976 to Christopher Cross's Grammy sweep with his self-titled debut in 1981 to Michael Jackson's 1983's Thriller? Sure. Which effectively ended the era in conjunction with the rise of MTV and the visual pop icon. The film then discusses the music's G-funk resurgence in the 1990s with songs like Regulate by Warren G, sampling I Keep Forgettin' by Michael McDonald, highlighting the outreach the genre has over generations. This answered one of the first questions I had about yacht rock. Why 1976 to 1984 as a time period? It also provided many reference points for my research. As far as academic literature on yacht rock, the main pieces of writing I found were from geospatial scientists Joni Grubasek and Edward Helderop and informatics student Valjean Carr researching the collaborative network of what is now known as yacht rock. They focus on the collaborations from 1976 to 1984, highlighting the versatility of individual musicians' collaborations that spanned genres from samba to country music. The study calculates how central and prolific different musicians were to the scene, with drummer Jeff Porcaro and guitarist/vocalist Steve Lukather from Toto having over 300 connections within the network. Following them was pianist Bill Champlin of Airplay and Chicago, and percussionist Paulino Ducosta, who has worked with Michael Jackson and Al Jarreau. They divided the hundreds of musicians into 6 main social groups: Yacht Rock Superstars, Bridge Builders, Toto, Steely Dan, the Doobie Brothers, and Yacht Soul/Hired Guns. In addition to social network findings, Grubasek, Helderop, and Carr contextualized yacht rock within the economic opportunity found in Los Angeles from 1976 to 1984. This study broadens the narrative of central yacht rock figures to include a variety of musicians not mentioned or featured in the original web series or HBO documentary. They also attribute the recording of Boz Scaggs' Silk Degrees in 1976 to be a seminal moment in yacht rock because it includes this session artist now known as Toto playing on the album together for the first time. Little footnote here, something that I found really interesting is on the it's either Beyond Yacht Rock or Yacht or Yacht podcast, which are these subsequent podcasts following the web series with the same creators, with David B. Lyons instead of Lane Farnham speaking. They went over Boz Scaggs' Silk Degrees in 1976. Well, not in 1970. You know what I'm saying. I'm looking at my paper. Okay, so they went over this album, and most of the songs on the album are not yacht rock. Like, we have the famous Lowdown and maybe a couple of others, but most of them kind of span and go out of the pocket of what we would consider yacht rock. So it is considered an essential album, even though not a lot of the songs on there are yacht rock because of the collaboration. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. You know, we have a couple of artists who immediately come to mind when we think of yacht rock, like Michael McDonald, Kenny Loggins, Michael Jackson. But if looking at those three people's careers, they did so many stuff. So many stuff, yes. So much stuff beyond yacht rock, stylistically and collaboratively. Okay, ramble over. The lack of academic literature on yacht rock was one of my primary motivators for researching the genre's origins. My scope of research centered around the music from the era, then the web series and podcasts by the founders of yacht rock. I found in other forms of research, such as news articles, that the web series was rarely mentioned or brushed over. Watching the web series before engaging with the music itself provided an essential primer to the overall essence of the genre, aka it being a huge joke. In my time researching the genre, there seems to be a variety of strong opinions and misconceptions about the music that I also harbored, but have since revised upon further inspection of what constitutes yacht rock. Subsequently, there are a variety of critiques of yacht rock. Steve Lukather remarked, "I don't know what it is about all the music that I've ever been involved with, but there seems to be a silly little title involved with it as well. Yacht rock. Where's my effing yacht? I played on all those records." That was from the HBO Max documentary. Rick Beato, musician and commentator who interviewed Michael McDonald, Jeff Skunk Baxter, Chuck Rainey, Bernard Purdy, and more, is offended by the term. Yacht rock is a derogatory oversimplification of the diverse music that was talked about in the Yacht Rock documentary. When asked to be in Max's film, Donald Fagen told director Garrett Price to go F himself. His manager then authorized 6 Steely Dan songs for use in the film. So, a little footnote about my opinions on all these things. I think once you view the original web series, it's just very clear that it's 4 guys interpreting and like finding a very specific vibe to these songs that reached commercial success in this very specific time. Like most genres, we're really just making it up. And it's a lot of fun, but I also want to hold space for the people, including my lovely Tia, shout out Tia Eva if you're listening to this, who grew up with this music and didn't know it to be yacht rock. It was just either West Coast or pop music. It can seem kind of like a cheapening of the complexity and beauty of the music and the scene, but I personally love to use it as a gateway and just a label to further explore the individual songs, artists, and musical universe that has been highlighted because of it. Perhaps the most scathing critique comes from an anonymous journalist for the left-leaning publication Jacobin, who correlated Christopher Cross's Grammy victory over bands like Pink Floyd in 1981 with Marxist geographer David Harvey's declaration of 1980 as a neoliberal tipping point in world history. No, the importance of that mummery of an awards ceremony was not musical, but political and cultural. What it reflected about the Garden of Nightmares America had become very harsh statement. They then make the argument that music is a key tool in defining culture, which I would agree with, and subsequently politics. Yeah. They take us back to the civil rights protest songs of the 1960s, the inflation and discouragement that followed in the 1970s, and the Reagan-Thatcher-led counter-revolution that emphasized individualism and how yacht rock served as a sedation of the masses. They trace these various trends to 2012 with the most current socio-political movement at the time of the article's conception, Occupy Wall Street. While the article's dense language and many citations provide a solid argument that yacht rock is counter-revolutionary, the journalist confuses yacht rock with all soft rock, incorporating bands like Eagles and Jimmy Buffett with Christopher Cross and Michael McDonald. I cannot blame the journalist because at the time the article was written, the principles of what was and was not yacht rock were not clearly defined. But I do think that there is a lot of validity in their argument, and you should take a look at it. Alright, a response in the new inquiry by independent scholar J. Temperance, the birth of the uncool, yacht rock, and libidinal subversion, agrees with the Jacobin journalist that in Yacht Rock was a shift from the overtly political protest songs to smooth songs about escape, but pushes back on the Jacobins' assertion that Yacht Rock is a cheap appropriation and agent of these principles, and instead proposes that Yacht Rock is a rejection of the fashion and trend cycling found in the late 20th century and early 21st century. The Jacobin would have you believe that yacht rock was an escape from blunt truths into the melodic, no-calorie lives of buy now, pay never, in which any discord could be neutralized with a moog beat. But this glib dismissal overlooks the particular nexus of cultural and ideological forces in which yacht rock emerged, and the way in which the genre functioned to imagine a plausible utopia and thereby reinvigorate the will to exist. I am a personal yacht rock fan, so I am inclined to agree with Temperance, but I also just think that a lot of these musicians were closer to you and me than any, political monetary overlord. Sure, a lot of them were doing really well. Some of them were virtually unknown, but when music comes out of such all music is collaboration. All music is reflective of its political state, but I think yacht rock brings me a lot of comfort to keep going and to imagine a better world through which I take action. But I think we're going to touch on that soon in this paper. I've not read this paper since April. Okay. The dialogue between these two articles will be essential in the dissection of the cultural currents of yacht rock, but we must first clearly define the musical characteristics. Thankfully, J.D. Risner, Steve Huey, Hunter Stair, and David B. Lyons, and Lane Farnham have outlined these principles numerous times in their podcast called Yacht or Yacht, Defining Yacht Rock. I think this is chapter 3. I don't even know. I don't know where we are, man. To me, we're just on a boat in a big ocean. Okay. The founders of the term yacht rock created the podcast Yacht or Yacht in 2022 as a spin-off segment from their 2016 podcast Beyond Yacht Rock, where they repeatedly define yacht rock and rate songs on the 100-point Yachtski scale. If a song scores over 50, on average, 50 points, it's yacht. If it scores less than 50 points on average, it's yacht. The creators over the course of multiple episodes asked themselves the same questions when they rate songs. Was it recorded between 1976 and 1984? Does it have jazz elements? Does it have personnel known for other yacht rock records? Does it still adhere to the general conventions of pop music? How does it talk about love? For example, What a Fool Believes by the Doobie Brothers is a unanimous 100 across the board, since it was co-written by frequent yacht rock collaborators Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald, and was released in 1979. Musical elements include the signature doobie bounce, which is the opening riff, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and the genre's characteristic frequent chordal changes, including modulation. The song ended up being number 1 on the Billboard chart, highlighting its success on the popular music front. It also adheres to verse-chorus conventions of popular music. Thematically, the story follows a man still in love with a woman who is never interested in him. She meets him in presumably a restaurant or cafe out of politeness, but he tries to recreate what had yet to be created. Often the word fool pops up in yacht rock songs. More on that later. See vulnerability. Contrast this rating and characteristics with Hotel California by the Eagles, which scores 7.1 points when averaged between the 4 creators. Hotel California discusses the excesses of Hollywood. It is heavily guitar-driven and stays within the same loop of chords within the B harmonic minor scale. It grooves, but it's not smooth. Hotel California is an example of how composition alone does not solely determine a yacht rock song. I would argue that the arrangement of a song trumps composition, but Renee and Angela's cover of Hotel California slides onto the boat at a 55.75 with its syncopated arrangement, including a pre-chorus breakdown and jazzier voicings, which is adding chordal extensions such as the 7th or the 9th, but we're not going to get into theory. Ew, okay. The musician's ability to create a variety of contrasting musical conversations within a pop song is determinant of the overall feel of the song, and therefore its degree of yachtiness. A great example of contrasting musical interaction is Heart to Heart by Kenny Loggins, which scores an average of 99.625 on the Yachtski scale. Within the first minute of the song, the texture simmers from a syncopated minor 1, minor 4, major 5 progression in a minor A minor to a gentle groove in G major. The pre-chorus then builds upon this groove, adding auxiliary percussion like congas, and finally shuffling to a middle ground between the first two ideas, playing between C major and A minor, which is, again, not to get too into theory, but it's the same set of keys, just the home is shifted. Yeah, with some guests from the G major scale, such as B minor and flat. Let me see how I say this. Flat major 7th over flat major 2 in C major and A minor, B flat. I think I could have worded that better. Anyways, several 2-5-1 progressions, which are also a common progression in jazz, connecting that root, in C major provide a transition between lyrical ideas as well. Oh, yeah, basically I'm going to repeat myself. These chords are one of the many examples of the jazz lineage within yacht rock. Other examples of jazz lineage in yacht rock include, but are not limited to, tenor saxophonist and composer Wayne Shorter, who soloed on Steely Dan's Asia, and Paulinho da Costa, a prolific Brazilian percussionist that emerged in many beloved yacht rock tracks such as Michael Jackson's Human Nature via an introduction to Quincy Jones by Dizzy Gillespie. Also, not to mention, like, the swing, the rhythm of that takes place during yacht rock, the way that it really lays back in the beat sometimes. Yeah, lots of jazz in yacht rock, lots of jazz and popular music. It's kind of, foundational or whatever. It's interesting to see a genre being formed in real time. As someone who has studied the conventions of Western European classical music throughout their degree, it's easy to sit in the assumption that hundreds of years of music can be condensed into a canon of songs and principles divinely and decisively ordained. Can we say there is a definitive rock song, jazz standard, pop tune? These genres are broad and more mainstream than this overtly retroactively named genre. However, due to the technology that allows anyone to grab a microphone and document their thoughts for the public, wow, what a meta moment here, we can witness firsthand how subjective canonization is through the Yacht or Not, Yacht, and Beyond Yacht Rock podcasts. The creators are also unserious and self-aware about the arbitrary nature of genre, while also sticking to their guns regarding the principles of yacht rock. Due to my formative positive experiences with yacht rock songs, the distinct social network of yacht rock, the real-time ranking of songs, and the general attraction to the music, I decided to embark on a personal journey in discovering the cultural currents of yacht rock through the ocean of time. I wanted to investigate how yacht rock interacts with different facets of the modern world and my inner world as a creative. Holy shit, I'm gonna take a water break right now. Okay. I'm not editing this audio, so this is real. This is me. I would rate This Is Me from Camp Rock a solid 15 on the Yachtski scale. Unless some personnel was involved that I'm not aware of. Okay. Methodology. Researching through creation. My original research project included rounding up some of my favorite student musicians to create a band called Pont de Merde, a French translation of pooped deck, just smushed together in one word. Our mission was to perform yacht rock songs and then interview locals from various demographics within the greater Tallahassee area about their experiences with our band and the music they are familiar with. Alas, this iteration of my project did not come to fruition, mainly because of the time commitment required and the various scheduling location conflicts required to hold an 8-piece band. Yeah. In addition to the logistical difficulties, this was my first attempt at forming a band. I did not write charts or transcribe lines, which is like the preferred method of bands like Steely Dan to ensure a timely and precise product. Most of my learning happened by ear, and my bandmates found changes that were available online, which changes is like chord charts. It was safe to say I bit off more than I could chew. We spent 3 rehearsals stumbling through Asia by Steely Dan. The 7-minute song, with several metric and tonal shifts, and theme of Orientalism was sure to be a crowd pleaser, I never once thought to myself. I got a bit swept away with the music without the proper infrastructure to see it through. My bandmates were passionate and talented, but spread thin, as was I. Also, yeah, full-time students, ugh. In retrospect, trying to recreate a live band of people, an environment antithetical to the environment that produced the music we now know as yacht rock, was a daunting task. Los Angeles in the late 70s and early 80s was opulent. A newly reinvigorated economy adorned a major city with hundreds of world-class recording studios, which attracted the most dedicated and talented musicians and producers like Steve Lukather, Jeff Porcaro, David Paich, Quincy Jones, Donald Fagen, Paulino da Costa, Chuck Rainey, Wayne Shorter, Steve Gadd, and so many more. These artists had an abundance of time, money, and energy Coke to focus on perfecting tracks such as Time Out of Mind, off Steely Dan's 1980 album Gaucho, where Fagen and Brecker hired and fired entire bands and famously harassed guitar hero Mark Knopfler, who also learned by ear. In fact, Steely Dan rarely performed live in their peak creative period. Instead, they swapped out session musicians to satisfy their visions. Oh, I'm a poet and I don't know it. As a result of the inefficient rehearsal process and limited resources, Pont de Merde sunk. Feelings of inadequacy, embarrassment, and general shame arose inside of me as I was unable to step back and see the broader implications of my project. No one likes their concept not panning out. Wallowing in self-pity was not going to cut it. I had a boat to steer. During my fall semester, I underwent personal transformation through continued mental health counseling, career counseling, and a book club featuring The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Through these paths, I began reframing the relationship I have with creating. Competitors became collaborators, jealousy became inspiration, failure became lessons, and scarcity became abundance in my head. My reality began to mirror these shifts. And, life is a hopefully upward spiral, and I actually revisited The Artist's Way this summer, and just confronting all of these things all over again, thought I had really done it that time, but you just, gotta go back and do it again. With the vigor instilled in me through self-care practices, I pivoted to a new approach. I decided to play to my strengths. I am the chronically online captain of my own life. After all, I needed a project that did not rely on 7 other people's ability to show up. I thought about how Yacht Rock began as a web series, and I am now in the process of writing, recording, and editing a web series of my own called Yacht Rock. Oh my gosh! The title plays into the process of the creators placing a consonant in front of yacht, like in their podcast Yacht or Yacht, making my page more accessible and searchable while maintaining its individuality. There's also a tie-in with the early 2000s campaign Gyacht Milk. Wait. The term Gyacht also plays off a popular word that arose within the last year or so, at least to like mainstream Gen Z vernacular. Gyacht referring to usually a woman's large posterior, adding a humorous and crude undertone to my commentary. The most joy in my process came from creating the Gyacht Rock theme song. Although merely a 10-second introduction, I was able to incorporate the musical elements I saw throughout Yacht Rock and make something of my own. I channeled George Benson's Breezing and Steely Dan's Asia, incorporating auxiliary percussion, a Fender Rhodes sound, and dense vocal harmonies. I then cut out the instrumentation and mimicked the D-flat diminished chord over C chord used in Asia, which sounded like a boat horn to me. I was very proud of this and ended up producing one full-length episode with this song, which received positive feedback, including people telling me they are now deep in a yacht rock phase. I hope to indoctrinate you more. Unfortunately, I quickly lost momentum trying to make consistent, high quality videos as an inexperienced full time college student about to graduate. I feel like I'm still struggling. uh, Overwhelmed by the pressure I put on myself to churn out high quality content, I decided to simplify my research for a couple of weeks and focused on the source, the songs themselves. I narrowed my scope of analysis to what the creators of Yacht Rock refer to as the Yacht Essentials, or songs that score over 90 points on average, with a couple of my favorite pre existing Yacht Rock tunes thrown in. Nothing You Can Do About It by Airplay served as a resurrection to my love and an antidote to the paralysis that I felt while completing my project. Give up, give in, you lose. Love will always win. Start surrendering, stop resisting. Great words to live by. The revelation that I loved Yacht Rock more than I feared looking foolish or saying the wrong thing restarted my research, and honestly, it's restarting this project again. I surrendered to the fact that I'm new to the world of research. I am new to the world of consistent online content creation. I am new to the world. I'm going to make mistakes, and that is okay. And with that, I burp. Relax, enjoy the ride. I am in my final semester of college, and what lies behind the tassel turning is a mystery to me. Airplay tells me to leave it as a mystery. Having to balance the chaotic current state of my life with the world around me and the uncertain future, all while reckoning with the past, has left me unable to function, let alone create. By the time my final spring break as an undergraduate rolled around, all I wanted to do was churn out episode after episode of Gyacht Rock. This did not happen. I surrendered to my fatigue and decided to recharge in nature. About a month out from my defense, I sat on the edge of Rock Springs in Apopka, Florida. Gazing at the water in awe, I realized that different currents intersect, spiral, meld, and reflect upon each other in a bustling ecosystem that was invigorating and soothing at the same time. In a beautiful full circle moment, the cultural currents of Yacht Rock clicked. Accessibility, vulnerability, and nostalgia. I must say, I have not visited this paper since April when my defense was, and rereading all of that stuff and just kind of even feeling resistance to come and record, like not feeling like I have enough information or knowledge, and even after passing my thesis, just the fear of being seen, the fear of stumbling or looking foolish still rears its head. But I hope if there's one thing that you can take away from this is that it's okay to try and it's okay to keep going. I was comparing myself to these highly polished, extremely well-funded and supported yacht rock projects that I was studying that I forgot to remember how the term even got consolidated in the first place, which is a bunch of people who just really love something and was gonna make a funny little series out of it. I texted one of my friends, like, I'm feeling creative resistance over reading my Yacht Rock thesis, and I reread that, and I realized how silly it sounded, and I was like, okay, we gotta press record, man. So let's get into the cultural currents of Yacht Rock, shall we? The first cultural current of Yacht Rock is accessibility. Yacht Rock is both inaccessible and accessible. The music itself from that era is essentially jazz, rock, disco, R&B fusion molded into popular music forms that allowed for #1 hits and Grammy sweeps, topical indicators of widespread success. Even after Yacht Rock's fade into obscurity and vinyl store dollar bins, you can find a Yacht Rock song in the rotation at a grocery store, chain restaurant, or dentist office, perfectly complementing your mundane activities. While the complexity in composition and or arrangement defines Yacht Rock, it is also the smooth pop packaging that allows for mainstream consumption. After attempting to play the music with a band, I can say that extensive training and skill are required to play Yacht Rock. While the band comprising of third and fourth year collegiate musicians was able to replicate the general feel of the music, the scarcity of instrumentation and production caused the nuances of the recordings to be lost. I found that to emulate the sound, I needed years of band-leading experience, high-quality equipment, and a wide pool of versatile musicians to pull from in the event someone cannot produce the exact results I desired. These were the things I did not have. You cannot jam in a circle on acoustic guitars to yacht-era Steely Dan with their unique chord voicings and metric modulations in the same way that you can with 2-3 chord songs. Both are valid forms of expression. I love me some country music, but the distinction of complexity makes yacht rock inaccessible to those without time, money, and connection. However, the term yacht rock itself, I argue, is accessible. It's a name that gives a home to the popular music of 1976 to 1984 with specific qualities and themes. Through its virality on early YouTube, yacht rock spread to younger generations like myself via streaming services like SiriusXM, Spotify, Apple Music. To address Beato's argument, oh, I already did this, but we're going to repeat myself. Yacht rock is a simplification of a diverse music era. However, through the algorithmic nature of streaming services and social media, the label yacht rock allows people to find more music from that era, which helps the artist continue to earn royalties. Even though, we know that the artist royalties are not that great on streaming, but just go with me here. The retroactive label helped revive the careers of artists like Robbie Dupree. Mr. Dupree, long accustomed to gigs with few hundred attendees, marvels today at the crowds in thousands at yacht rock themed shows. Steve Lukather's quote earlier about not owning a yacht is echoed throughout his colleagues from the time. Peter Beckett, who co-wrote the 1977 hit Baby Come Back, stated, "Young people today, when they mention our kind of band, they visualize us on our boats in the 1970s, drinking Chardonnay, playing our guitars, and sailing past Malibu. I never owned a sailboat in my life." Most of these musicians were unsung heroes in my book. Was the music facilitated to create wonderful tracks from the opulence of Los Angeles? Sure, but the rise of visual pop icons like Madonna and Michael Jackson quickly ousted the uncool radio sweethearts like Christopher Cross, relegating their music to dollar bins at record stores. Yacht rock was another victim of the changing market demands, proving the disposable nature of the music industry. While yacht rock may have been more obscure in the 1990s and early 2000s, it was more accessible due to the lowered costs. Artists like Warren G and Nate Dogg came across Michael McDonald's, I keep forgetting, from a vinyl dealer outside of a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles and sampled the track to produce Regulate. This was fictitiously represented in Yacht Rock Episode 7, with Nate Dogg and Warren G running over Michael McDonald with a car and then resuscitating him and sampling his song. The creators of Yacht Rock found these same albums in record shops before the creation of the web series. After listening and re-listening to these records and meticulously scanning the liner notes, they noticed overlap between musicians who wrote, played, and produced these records. It was people who were enjoying music frugally, inspecting the liner notes, and listening consistently that identified the network of people involved creating what we now know as Yacht Rock. I think that's so accessible. When it came to my project, I was drowning in riptides of disconnect when attempting to make short-form accessible videos highlighting the many facets of yacht rock. I had a hard time reconciling the DIY irony of the web series that generated the term with the vulnerable yet meticulous source material and my own need for perfectionism. My creative process had been thoroughly unenjoyable, messing around with microphones and camera angles, editing styles, and technical difficulties for hours to produce a video less than 10 minutes in length. I'm reliving it now. All the progress I made in healing my relationship with creating felt lost when the mere act of perceiving myself became unbearable. How could I fulfill my mission to make accessible content if I was inaccessible to myself? With these discoveries in mind, I look on the horizon to see how I can make creating yacht rock more enjoyable for myself and therefore more accessible to myself. One of my ideas is lowering the barrier of entry to create. Instead of planning elaborate video essays detailing the intricacies of yacht rock, I make short means to highlight a point I made in one longer video I have out. I have also employed typical content creation trick, which was cutting a large clip of content into smaller videos to stretch out my content effectively. These methods garnered positive responses from my friend. My cousin Michael Mesa, not McDonald, commented on one of my posts. For real, I only have the attention span for the breakdowns. Yacht Rock's duality of accessibility helped me reframe my idea of perfectionism. I remembered that these musicians' smooth polish came from waves upon waves weathering them. Many of these talented Yacht Rock era musicians were at later stages in their career, having played for at least 10 years in a variety of genres before making the recordings we now know and love. For example, Boss Gags was commercially unsuccessful with his Allman Brothers X rock music until he decided to hire session musicians that would comprise Toto later for his album Silk Degrees. Even J.D. Risner, Steve Huey, Hunter Stair, and Lane Farnham had a team to produce Yacht Rock, and the series took 5 years to make. Steely Dan took a 20-year hiatus between Gaucho and their next post-yacht album. I think I can cut myself some slack with my 2-month hiatus on Yacht Rock. That's now 6 months, but, just cut me even more slack, please. They all started somewhere. Only their trials and failures are not immortalized in the way that digital age fossilizes failure. My high expectations for my project only froze me, but it was the vulnerability I had in recognizing my constraints and shortcomings that lead me to access my strengths. Healthy perfectionism is a slow refinement from an imperfect product, which is only achievable through taking one accessible step after the other and embodying gentleness throughout the ebbs and flows. I am still very much learning this. Vulnerability. J.D. Risner was quoted in the Max documentary saying, Yacht Rock is men talking about their mistakes, and it's men talking about how sad they are and about their breakups, and there's always been music like that, but there's something about Yacht Rock where men just embrace being the sad sack loser in a really big way. I love that quote. The archetype of the fool is prevalent in Yacht Rock and Western culture. The word has been in English vernacular for about 800 years, and it often describes someone whose passion supersedes their wisdom. Very familiar to me. It can also refer to someone who is careless with a great sense of humor. I'm a fool, baby. My initial impression of Yacht Rock was its gentle, vulnerable nature that placed it in opposition with other groups like Van Halen, who portrayed the excesses of the era in a far less subtle way. Like the dialectic nature of Yacht Rock's accessibility, you can also make the argument that Yacht Rock is both vulnerable and escapist, both romantic and cynical. Yacht Rock often features themes of love not working out and admitting the deep need for human connection, like, I'm not so systematic, it's just that I'm an addict for your love. Toto, 1978, Georgie Porgy. I keep forgetting we're not in love anymore. I keep forgetting things will never be the same again. McDonald, 1982, and Baby Come Back. Any kind of fool could see I was wrong and I just can't live without you. Even the cynical godfathers of Yacht Rock, Steely Dan, break it down in the last verse of Deacon Blues, singing, I cried when I wrote this song, sue me if I play it wrong. Interestingly, when searching for songs that have been rated yacht on the Yachtski scale, 18 songs that are considered Yacht Rock have the word fool in the title. 52 songs contain the word love. This only accounts for the titles, but I think there's something to be said for the prevalence of and power of love in Yacht Rock. In Pablo Cruz's Love Will Find a Way, we see the journey from feeling like a fool in heartbreak to finding love again. Someone's done you wrong. You thought that your love was strong. Now you're feeling like such a fool. Poor you. But then the chorus reassures the listener. Oh, but it's all right. Once you get past the pain, you'll learn to find love again. So keep your heart wide open, 'cause love will find a way. Keeping your heart wide open despite of heartbreak is an extremely vulnerable and strong practice. We often feel like fools for taking chances on love or yacht rock bands, especially when they don't work out. But Love Will Find a Way by Pablo Cruz encourages the listener to not let those experiences shut off the heart with the promise of rebirth after a love's death. While Yacht Rock is predominantly male, I Want Love to Find Me by Brenda Russell is a portrayal of women's vulnerabilities displayed in the genre. In this song, Russell admits she is tired of the search for love and wants love to find her. Same old truth is underlying, no one falls in love by trying. Paralleling these songs with Airplay's Nothing You Can Do About It, it seems like going with the flow of love is the answer in Yacht Rock, and perhaps life itself. With vulnerability and surrender comes escapism with action perched on the other side of the Yacht Rock spectrum. Songs like This Is It possess a showdown energy with fast-paced tension and drama. In Logan's case, it's a confrontation of someone he deeply cares about. How are you going to wait for your sign, your miracle? Stand up and fight. Serves as a direct opposition to Nothing You Can Do About It. But maybe common ground between surrender and fight can be found in the following line, too strong to be denied from Nothing You Can Do About It. Perhaps Airplay's spiritual sentiments don't come from inaction, but rather encourage the listener to embody the confidence that comes with their loving visions already coming into fruition, assuring that we're all some part of eternal plan, and that love will lead you even in temporary losses. The overarching power of love is too strong for resistance, and the energy resisting is better used acting from a place of calm. Revisiting Deacon Blues, the protagonist wishes to escape the reality through vices. I crawl like a viper through the suburban scene, make love to these women, languid and bittersweet. Drink Scotch whiskey all night long, and die behind the wheel. Even in the want to escape, Becker and Fagan show vulnerability in exposing such perversions of the mind. It's not glamorizing the lifestyle, but displays the actions with a daring level of honesty. Deacon Blues highlights the sadness of a man just past his prime, trapped in the mundane escape of American suburbia. Christopher Cross's Ride Like the Wind and Sailing are also interesting examples of escapism in different modes. Ride Like the Wind is like This Is It in the energetic, anticipatory feel of the music while also retaining its nuances and complexity. Ride Like the Wind evokes rugged individualism with the imagery of a man on the run trying to escape the United States alone. It is the night. My body's weak. I'm on the run. No time to speak. I've got to ride. Ride like the wind to be free again. Doubling down on the second verse, I was born the son of a lawless man. Always spoke my mind with a gun in my hand. Lived 9 lives, gunned down 10. Gonna ride like the wind. If there was a song that proved the presence of machismo in Yacht Rock, this is it. No pun intended. The stoic nature of the protagonist, bragging about his body count alone, I presume on a motorcycle, racing towards Mexico because of the various implied crimes, seems out of place when claiming a genre of music known for its sensitivity at the expense of its coolness. Perhaps we can voyage towards some answers with Christopher Cross's most popular song to compare. Sailing is on the same album, but far gentler in nature. Both Cross songs discuss escapism in contrasting ways, with soft strings and sailing serving as a contrast to the shredding guitar solo in Ride Like the Wind. Lyrically, Sailing begins well, it's not far down to paradise. At least it's not for me. And if the wind is right, you can sail away, find tranquility. The idea that paradise is not far off, but that the canvas can do miracles, just you wait and see. Believe me. Paradise is present when there is faith on the canvas, and if you exercise patience and keep your mind's eye open, you can transform your canvas, your reality, into something beautiful, despite the circumstances. Sailing's meditative nature allows the listeners to find rest and comfort in the transmutational possibilities of our reality. This reminds me of It Has Begun. There is nothing in the world to stop it now. Our desired realities are not some far fantasies. They are already making their way towards us if we allow ourselves to be open and vulnerable. Revisiting the Jacobin critique with this quote, the ulcerating chonker, I have no idea, known as Yacht Rock, was a sign of a greater gathering plague. That the reactionaries are their most potent poison, the redistributive soak-the-poor tenets of neoliberal economics. The journalist continues to make the argument that Yacht Rock reflects the shallow, individualistic cultural shifts in music during the 1970s. I partially disagree. Not only does the lyrical content reflect a desire, if not practice, of a loving world, but the sheer amounts of collaboration also required to execute these songs requires collectivism, to a degree. If one wholeheartedly believes that yacht rock is comprised entirely of vapid escapism, sometimes we need a break. The notion that every piece of media must be a revolutionary play into the same notion. Oh, okay, let me restart that sentence. The notion that every piece of media must serve a revolutionary purpose plays into the same notions of constant toxic positivity, or maybe productivity, that perpetuates neoliberal economics. The misdirection of anger towards global elites to an artist that funded his album by selling weed does not display the proletariat solidarity they preach about in their article. I dare say that mentality is what caused the mass post-1970 burnout and counter-revolution in the first place. J. Temperance's rebuttal mirrored many of my sentiments. The Jacobin mistakes the necessary prerequisite of believing in an escape from capitalism is possible for the exercise of mere escapism. The Jacobin is right to proclaim that it is only through the cultural transmission of social solidarity and the rejection of empty celebrations of oneself that neoliberalism can begin to be annihilated. But no celebration of the self is more politically impotent than the hollow self-congratulation of the sarcastically and secretly shame-ridden music trend chaser who marches in double time to fashion's inexorable drumbeat and calls his desperate pursuit of exclusive and personal cultural capital a form of radical critique. That's what a fool believes. Sorry, I forgot that this was ASMR, and that was a mic drop. Okay. I believe Yacht Rock can provide a remedy to the sarcasm, irony, and insincerity that perpetuates internet culture. Ethel Cain, musician, has famously called out an irony epidemic in which Gen Z and Generation Alpha failed to engage with art as it was intended, particularly uncomfortable art. I would argue that Yacht Rock is very, very comfortable, but stick with me. Granted, Ethel Cain's art consists of cannibalism and other disturbing themes, so the ironic responses are going to be stronger. That's where Yacht Rock comes in. The music is layered and complex to where the lyrics are secondary. But once those lyrics are uncovered, the unraveling of the heart can begin. Yacht Rock allows us to be vulnerable, and yet the escapism provides a level of comfort that is familiar to those of us who have never lived through the time, but yearn for it. Vulnerability is the act of uncovering and sharing your wrongdoings, desires, and pain in the hopes that you'll induce catharsis in yourself and others. Several songs throughout the Yacht Rock canon have these admissions that touch the soul in poignant ways, with the dignity preserved by virtuosic production. I discovered vulnerability as a current of Yacht Rock through my own vulnerability reflecting upon this project. I think something that held me back from achieving what I originally wanted was the egoic need to have everything look a certain way. While this sentiment can be powerful in the task of realizing a vision, the vision I extensively researched, video produced every week for 10 weeks was not factoring in my life, my limitations, and my anxieties around producing something for the public that I couldn't avoid. I had to work through these emotions, and again, still working. And the tapestry of Yacht Rock songs provided wisdom and comfort when I was at the lowest points in my project. Okay, water break. Yeah, I think I wanted this summer to be another prolific Yacht Rock episode after Yacht Rock episode, or in this case, Yacht Rock. And it just didn't happen because I was busy moving out and graduating and procrastinating and fearing being seen, and resisting. You know, I was afraid of a lot of things. I still am, but I think being vulnerable is worth it. And I, above all else, you know, above whatever facts I may get wrong, names I mispronounce, I can say that I just really love Yacht Rock. And that's why I'm doing it. So let's move on to the final cultural current of Yacht Rock, which is nostalgia. Nostalgia is arguably the most powerful cultural current of yacht rock, considering it's a retroactively named genre that was created at the genesis of internet culture. A dated canon of background music that had Paul Rudd's character in the film The 40-Year-Old Virgin threatening to burn his workplace down is now a profitable movement worth producing high-budget feature film over, scattered throughout pop culture shows like The Simpsons. I believe yacht rock is part of a broader phenomenon called retroculture, which refers to the widespread embrace of content from the 20th century in the digital age. Patrick Galuszka, an associate professor of economics and sociology at the University of Lodz, Poland, talks about the causes of retroculture. The reasons for the spread of retroculture are cultural and technological. Cultural reasons include changing relations between people representing different generations, manifested by a more equal approach between parents and children, which facilitates an intergenerational sharing of popular music, taste, memory, and nostalgia. In the case of yacht rock, many people become familiar with the songs through their parents' generation, including myself. He continues, technological changes, on the other hand, involve the spread of the internet, resulting in easy access to past works. Hogarty suggests that this cultural and technological factors intersect with the perception among young people facing instability and precariousness that life, particularly popular music, was better in their parents' youth. Galuszka breaks down the fascination for cultures in years past by highlighting both intergenerational relations and the acceleration of access via technological advancement. Even the web series, at its 20th anniversary, has become retro. Speaking from personal experience as someone whose entire conscious life is intertwined with internet use, there seems to be an increasingly shorter period of relevance for current events and more tolerance of what is considered vintage. I believe the reason for this time perception is due to the high volume, high stress information being consumed daily that accelerates our perception of time. In the year 2025, I have seen people around my age group start to reminisce about COVID as if it was 20 plus years ago. This song takes me back is something I would expect my 55-year-old aunt to say about a Christopher Cross tune from 1980, not my 22-year-old peer remarking about Doja Cat's Say So, a song popularized in 2020. A crucial point of yacht rock's history and influence that most commentators gloss over is the web series where the term yacht rock originated. This series is a parody, the replication of formulae exaggerated for comedic purposes. This is exactly why some people who lived through the era hold contempt for the label. However, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Michael McDonald is quoted as saying, "I thought yacht rock was hilarious." And uncannily, those things always have a little bit of truth to them. It's kind of like when you get a letter from a stalker who's never met you. They somehow hit on something, and you have to admit they're pretty intuitive. Even parody requires a lot of love and attention. Listening to the podcasts, the creators' passion for the music could not be any more evident through, even with their snarky demeanors. It is also worth noting that yacht rock is not the only parody of music from the era. In 1980, SCTV depicted a Michael McDonald stunt double running in and out of the studio to sing backup vocals on Ride Like the Wind. There's also a two-part mockumentary made in 2015 called Gentle and Soft, the story of the Blue Jean Committee, detailing the rise and fall of the fictional pop group Blue Jean Committee, starring Saturday Night Live members Fred Armisen and Bill Hader, featuring appearances from Daryl Hall, Kenny Loggins, and Michael McDonald. The hit single, Catalina Breeze, passes the nostalgia and romanticization with a newly accessible genre via the internet, with uncontested musicianship and themes of vulnerable escapism, is a winning formula for popularity in a digital age plagued with hasty consumption and of distress and irony. Yacht rock seduces us to slow down, rest, and imagine a better world. Conclusion. In a world increasingly defined by disillusionment, digital saturation, and ironic detachment, yacht rock offers a surprising and meaningful point of connection. Rather than dismissing it as an escapist nostalgia or culturally tone-deaf indulgence, we can begin to understand yacht rock as a highly collaborative, technically sophisticated genre that embodies the collective artistry and optimism of its time. Reframing it through this lens reveals a deeper resonance, one that speaks not only to the craft behind the music, but the human desires for rest, ease, and emotional sincerity in times of crisis. For Gen Z, a cohort shaped by economic uncertainty, political volatility, and existential threat, embracing joy without cynicism can feel radical. As artist Ethel Kane describes it, we are living through an irony epidemic, one that often renders sincere expression suspect or uncool. In this context, yacht rock becomes more than a retro fascination. It becomes a tool for reclaiming emotional clarity, beauty, and communal hope. I can say that through my attempt at leading a band, it was the people and relationships I developed that empowered me to continue my project even after disbandment. Rather than defaulting to detachment, yacht rock encourages a future-forward embrace of softness, of vulnerability, harmony, and intentional craftsmanship. This project marks the beginning of an ongoing exploration. From continuing my Yacht Rock digital presence to scientific inquiries into waveforms and rhythms to broader studies in genre evolution, gender, race, and global influence, I aim to elevate the discourse around Yacht Rock. These potential studies include, but are not limited to, reviving Pontemerde and yachtifying different pop songs by rearranging them to suit the conventions of yacht rock, and correlating cycles in pop culture, like the 8-year yacht rock era to astrological events like Venus retrogrades. Whether through parody, revival, or critique, the genre continues to reinvent itself and calls me to evolve alongside it. In the tarot, the Fool is simply not a figure of naivete. It is a symbol of potential, trust, and the courageous leap into the unknown. Often misunderstood, the Fool begins the journey of the major arcana by stepping forward without a map, guided not by certainty, but by curiosity and a willingness to risk vulnerability. This archetype mirrors both the themes embedded in yacht rock and my own evolving relationship with creativity. Yacht rock, frequently reduced to sentimental softness or labeled foolish, in contrast to more politically charged genres, carries within it a deeper daring, to be earnest in an age that scorns sincerity. Like the Fool, these musicians walked the tightrope between artistic risk and polished perfection, crafting sonic landscapes of ease and emotional transparency. As I attempt to lead a band and produce original content for this project, I stumbled often, unsure of the path or the tools needed to proceed. But these failures become sacred echoes of the Fool's first steps. They reminded me that foolishness, in its most honest form, is not a lack of wisdom, but the bravery to begin without guarantees. Just as yacht rock embraces smooth sounds to soothe tough realities, I learned to accept that the creative leadership requires missteps, soft landings, and the occasional leap of faith. In this way, both the genre and my journey invite a reevaluation of what it means to be a fool, not as a punchline, but as a symbol of radical, open-hearted possibility. As we approach the 20th anniversary of the Yacht Rock label's inception, which was June 26th, 2005, it's worth considering not just how far the genre has come, but what it still has to offer. In an age that rewards outrage and sarcasm, perhaps the true subversion lies in smoothness, sincerity, and radical optimism. Yacht rock doesn't ignore the world's problems. It imagines what it might be to live beyond them. That vision is worth setting sail for. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your time. Yeah. Be sure to check out the rest of my Linktree, podcast episode, Spotify and Apple Music playlists, and all the other yachty goodness I have on there. Smooth sailing.